We recently wrapped up our first annual Solopreneur Live conference. This was a wonderful event where for 3 days, solopreneurs from all around the world gathered together to learn and to network and to inspire and motivate one another. And we had an incredible lineup of speakers. One of my favorites was Sam McKenna. I met Sam several years ago when I was working with B2B salespeople at Sales Hacker. And while I was still there, she had left her full-time job to go solopreneur. Well, within 24 months, she had gone from 0 to 7 figures. That's pretty darn impressive, I must say. So I thoroughly enjoyed getting to interview her. And for the podcast, I want to share that interview. So here you go. This is me interviewing Sam McKenna at Solopreneur Live 2021. Welcome to the Solopreneur Life podcast. Here, you'll get the strategies, insights, and mindset you need to succeed. Do what you love and get paid well for it. Take control of your time in life and enjoy the freedom you can only achieve as a profitable solopreneur. Okay, welcome. We are at our last session of the day. This is with Samantha McKenna from Sam Sales, and our topic today is scaling a company from 0 to 7 figures in under 24 months. Samantha, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thank you so much, first of all, Catherine, for having me. What a pleasure it is to speak at your inaugural event here. Really excited to be a part of it. As Catherine said, I'm Sam McKenna. I'm the founder of #Sam Sales Consulting. I have been in enterprise sales for about 15 years. Feels like a long time these days, but 15 years. I spent about 6 or 7 years as a individual contributor, meaning I carried a quota, had a territory and all of that, and then eventually moved to executive leadership across a few different companies. During my tenure, I broke every record under the sun, from first female to get from individual contributor to executive ranks at a company, first team leader, I think still ever in 22-year company history, to get my full team to President's Club, and then eventually ended up at LinkedIn, where I ran that new enterprise sales for LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I built out a couple of programs there as well, and then now I serve as about one of 20 brand ambassadors for LinkedIn as well, and have been running Sam Sales for 20 months now. I guess 20 months. We've done quite well over the course of our start, but started just like many of you as a solopreneur all by myself, wondering what in the heck did I just decide to do?
That's exactly the feedback. When you're sitting at your desk the first day going,
So,
right.
Yeah.
So how did you do it? You're sitting at your desk that first day. What did you do?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that was really important, so for any of you guys that maybe haven't taken the leap yet, but you're thinking about taking the leap, or you're wondering, perhaps the leap is a side hustle for you right now while you're still working your normal 9 to 5, 8 to 5, 8 to midnight job. One of the things that was really important was having built my brand previously. And that's where a lot of the demand came from. When I sat down at my desk on day one to think, okay, what do I do? I had a few clients and friends that had run their own businesses, and they reached out and said, you know what? We have absolutely no idea what we're doing. And we always wonder, what would Sam do? And now that you have your own business and there's no conflict of interest with you working for anybody else, come and work for us. Come and tell us what we should do. And so I got my start that way. We kicked off Labor Day weekend of 2019. I would say by the end of that year, we had maybe 5 or 6 clients max. We weren't really doing a lot of business. But what was interesting is that we started to grow our business and grow the lines of business based on the demand that we received from our clients. So one client said, we're ready to hire our first salesperson. And I thought, well, why? You guys have no brand awareness yet. We really have to build pipeline, do all sorts of things. So we grew a line of business out of that. Another client said, we think our sequences, our email sales sequences are really bad. Can anybody rewrite them? And I was like, well, yeah, I can do that. So we grew another line of business and slowly just started to add to our ranks with employees as those lines of businesses grew and as the clients continued to come on.
Okay. Now, I'm thinking about a couple of sessions we've already had where some of the things you're saying have come up.
Yeah.
One of them, we were in a panel and someone asked, you're supposed to find your audience first, build out your audience, and let them tell you what to produce. Now, that happened like overnight for you
Yeah.
because you already had your audience.
Yeah.
How
I
would it
think
how would it have been if you hadn't?
I think a lot more challenging, right? Because I think the thing we've been really lucky to have is a bunch of inbound business. And if you've already started your business and you are actively selling, I'll tell you the easiest way to bring in inbound is to build a brand through content. Catherine can attest to that with me. In fact, part of where the Sam Sales brand came from, this hashtag Sam Sales, I I think probably 6 or 7 years ago, I started to think about all the sales advice that I was giving. And every time I would give a piece of sales advice, either as an individual contributor or as an executive leader, I would give it to somebody who would say, I never thought of that. That's really smart. And I'm like, all right. And it seems so commonplace to me, right? Show me you know me behind me. Urgent bird gets the word, but worm behind me. Just things where these were standard concepts for me in sales. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to post it on LinkedIn. I'm going to post my thought leadership on LinkedIn. I'm going to post a sales tip and I'll attach a hashtag to it. And Catherine, you might not even know this story, but the very first post that I made was seen by Sales Hacker. And Sales Hacker reached out, which was a publication, Catherine worked for and that I really respected. And Sales Hacker reached out and said, would you write for us? We really loved this post. And I was like, what? I was so excited. I can't remember if it was Max that sent it over, or who it was, but they said, we've got 6 topics to write on, pick one. And I was like, I'll write for all 6. And they were like, easy, Tiger, like you can write for one. Let's see how you do and go from there. But building that brand, right? Sending that content out there, consistently posting, showing people what was inside my head and how I operated with sales was basically what built my brand for people to know she's the real deal. She gets it. She's got tangible practices, etc. So even if you are in this position now, right, think about where your audience lives. Are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Where's your age demographic? Are they on LinkedIn? Are you selling B2B? Where is your audience? And just start to post your thought leadership out there. I will say on that front too, I get a lot of people that comment on my posts and they're like, this is amazing. You just give everything away for free. It's true. You can piecemeal every single thing I put together. Go on my website, grab it from my articles. Go on LinkedIn, grab my tips. But at the end of the day, people still want it consolidated. People just want it to be presented by the person. So don't think that just giving your advice is giving it away for free. It's just convincing your audience that you're a credible expert in your space and that they should invest in you.
I love that. That's such a good point. A lot of people are afraid of giving away their secret sauce, but people don't want to do the work you're talking about. So they'll still hire you to do the work.
Yeah, we're all pretty lazy.
Right. So how often, I know that you've really leveraged LinkedIn. How often do you recommend that they post on LinkedIn to really make an impact?
Yeah. So again, just think about where your audience is, right? So LinkedIn may not be appropriate for everybody, but wherever it is, again, use that social platform, a social platform of some kind to get your content out there. The thing that I would suggest is, first and foremost, do not make any formal announcements about what you're going to start to post. I see this from a lot of people. They declare that they're going to start posting like twice a week on Monday mornings at 8. You do that for 2 or 3 weeks, kind of like how we go to the gym at the beginning of the year, and then you fall off, right? And then you might fall off again, and then you lose credibility because you're not doing it when you say you would, because life happens. So just start to post. And I would say, number one, avoid Mondays. Mondays, especially on the LinkedIn platform, is the day that everybody wakes up and they're like, today is the day I'm going to post on LinkedIn. And so guess what? You're competing with a lot more people for the eyeballs of your network. So start to think about, can you post 2 to 3 times a week at least? Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, perhaps one day on a weekend. It's really interesting to think about, again, if you're on LinkedIn, the posting on a weekend also typically gets a different audience and tends to get a higher level of audience. So that's when our executives are like, okay, what did I miss this week? And they open up the app. Whereas during the week, they're so focused on work that they may not necessarily have time to look at LinkedIn. So definitely vary that. I would say too, if you're thinking about, okay, great, I can do that 2 to 3 times a week, fabulous, but what time should I post? There really is no right time, right? Even if you're posting at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're going to get to your EMEA audience if you're based in New York. If you're posting first thing at 6 a.m., you might get your New York audience, but you might have missed your EMEA audience. So there's really no perfect time. And also think that your content goes on for some time, right? So it's not just today in a vacuum, it's tomorrow and the next day and continues on as people engage with it.
Very good. Now, do you do content other than social media? I know you said you do guest posts.
Yeah, so we do. I write quite a bit of content in general. We also started a newsletter, and we're slowly dipping our toes into marketing. So as I started to scale my team, right, and I guess a good piece of advice that I would give you guys is I'm very much, I guess I would say, cart very much behind the horse. So we always say, like, don't get the cart before the horse. I'm never the cart before the horse. I'm behind the horse and then one step back. So I really wait until I can use sound judgment before I invest in people and technology and processes, right? I want to make sure we're really there before I jump the gun to make an investment. And the same thing went for marketing. When we started to do a newsletter, that was just a great medium to consolidate all of the content that we had on a weekly basis. Posts, me speaking at events, articles, partnerships that we created, et cetera, and get it out into one medium. But we've also started to do email marketing campaigns, right? So announcing things about our product lines and things like that. But again, we're kind of feeling our way through this. We also don't want to spam our audience. But this kind of content is great, right? Anywhere where you can speak, where you have credibility, you can reach a new audience, you can repurpose that content, right? Take something like this today, we can throw it on a website, we can post about it on LinkedIn, we can take snippets of it to put in our newsletter. There's so much you can do with just one appearance.
That's really good to know. So when you left your job and you were sitting at your desk, did you visualize the amount of growth you've seen?
Not a shot in hell. Candidly, I think one of the warnings that I received when I was going into this, in fact, from my first client who had been a consultant before as well, was you have to start a technology company. You can never scale a consultancy. There's only so much of you to go around, and then your rate just goes up, et cetera. And I was like, well, I'm just going to see how it goes, right? And I truly felt if I could engage with 5 or 6 clients, and if I could make a difference across 5 or 6 different companies instead of just one company, I would be fulfilled. And I do also think that there is, to a degree, there's a breaking point of how much money buys you happiness, right? At a certain degree, is $20,000 going to make a bigger difference to you? If you're making $20,000, then yes. But if you're, making $200,000 or $250,000, it's a little bit more going to make a difference? Probably not. And so I wanted to get to a certain degree of income and figured I would just be happy there because I knew I was doing something I loved. So that was enough for me. But I think what was interesting is that as our work, as we created our work and as we executed our work, then again, further word spread, or people realized, oh, you're not just doing this short term, you're doing this for however long you can do this for. I think that's really when the scale started to tip, because a lot of people leave their jobs and they become a consultant while they're looking for the next job. And that was definitely something I battled, especially candidly, I don't know how many men we have in our audience, but with a lot of men, they're like, so how's your little business going? And I'm like, pretty damn good. Thanks for asking. I was never that rude. Don't worry. But holy moly. But I will say, thinking about the growth, it just came out of demand. For me, when I was getting to the point, and this is how we scaled, where every day I was behind my desk for 12 hours, 14 hours, or getting up at the crack of dawn, I paused and I said, what am I doing today? What have I done this week that does not require me? And that was really my breaking point to say, okay, I can hire someone to do that. I'll give you just even a good example. My dear executive assistant, Carol billed me, I want to say 61 hours the first 2 weeks of April. 61 hours for Carol, where she's scheduling things for me, just changing my schedule around, mailing thank you cards out to clients, things like that. And I just think, what if I had to do that work? Be dead. So things like that, like how you scale the business is, what am I doing right now that doesn't require my expertise, my brain power? Is it billing? Is it thank you notes? Is it scheduling myself? Mm-hmm. Some small things like that can really stack up and help you not only regain control of your day, but then start to scale the company with new hires.
Now, I've struggled with this myself. Throughout the years, I'll come to a point where I think I'm at the limit of what I can do by myself.
Yeah.
And you have all these options, and one of them is what you did, which is hiring someone. But that requires some of the money that you just finally got to the point you were happy with. How do you navigate that?
Yeah. So I think you also look for people that are at different points in their careers and want different things. I'll tell you, one of the greatest sources for us for hiring has been military and expat spouses. So that's one of the things our business is known for. We hire almost exclusively military and expat spouses, or just people that are in different places in their career, right? Perhaps they want to travel, perhaps they have grandkids and they're just not interested in full time, but they want to stay connected to the business. So they're not necessarily saying, I need $80,000 a year to be a part of a company, because I promise you we're not paying that, and we have no illustrious benefits of corporate America just yet. We'll get there. But I think about finding talent in uncommon places. I'm a former military spouse myself from what feels like a million years ago, and I think that that's one of the things that surprised me when one of my first duty stations in Germany. I was surrounded by talented women, master's degrees, former heads of incredible decision makers at Fannie Mae, former heads of MasterCard, and they were now stationed somewhere remotely. They had absolutely nothing to do. Their husbands were deployed. Oh my gosh. And I just thought back then how fortunate I would have felt to have someone like Sam Sales to work for. And so we found extraordinary talent there. I think I might be the only one on my team to not have a master's degree.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'll just say that maybe one other. But yeah, we've got a talented crew. So it doesn't have to be somebody with 10 years of expertise who wants $100,000 a year.
Okay, great. Had you ever thought about people just coming out of college needing internship?
Yeah, so we actually, one of our most recent hires just graduated University of San Diego, and she's also has a perfect balance for her. She's living in Hawaii. She never has to go into an office on a daily basis. She can work whenever she wants. Yeah, and we're actually partnering through another one of our employees, our head of marketing, Paige, who is also from the University of San Diego, having worked there and attended there. We're bringing some interns on in the fall, so we're really excited about that. So I think tons of opportunity for recent grads, right? That I think also that demographic wants a little bit of a different life. They're not so excited to work 80 hours a week. They'd really love the work-life balance, and especially now, with the impact of COVID, the ability to work remote.
Very good. Okay, I'm looking at my questions, trying to decide what I need to ask you. I'm super impressed with the degree of growth. I mean, to go from 0 to 7 figures.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. I think one of the things, so every time we heard something from our clients, right? So again, the very first thing that we heard was an opportunity to create an outsourced business development representative line of business. And when we heard that, again, this isn't something I need to do. This is another headcount that we can bring on. We, just like every company under the sun that sells services, they mark up the prices of their talent, of course. But it was just an opportunity for us to drive value, to scale what I did really well, to give that skill set to another employee, and then to go and execute for that client. So every time we heard something and thought, could this be a viable business model? And is this something that other people will need? I basically built it. So our outsourced BDR, we built that. The content writing, we're really fortunate to have Eve on our team, who is a published poet. She has authored a book. She, teaches for a Master's of Fine Arts program in creative writing at an incredible university here in the US. And we have her who writes all of our content. Now, she writes our content according to my methodology, right? How we write our sales subject lines, how we write the value proposition, which we haven't met an organization yet that has done a good job with any of this, right? So it's great that we've come along, but I can teach Eve that and then pass the work to her. So I think that's one of the things is, are you listening to your clients, and is there repeat business here outside of just working with them that you can scale that? I'll tell you, I think one of the core differentiators for what I have done effectively as well is, and I highlight this because I see this miss in entrepreneurs so often, is just the art of follow through. truly. Do you do what you say you're going to do? Do you follow through on the commitments to yourself come hell or high water? Most of the entrepreneurs that we work with don't. We have to bug them and bug them and bug them to just to even send proposals where, to clients, we're like, hey, the client asked you for this proposal 2 weeks ago. Did they respond to the proposal you sent? Which is basically us just saying, you didn't send it, right? And they're like, oh, I need to do that. And we're like, you'll just never find me missing that, right? So if somebody had to nag me to do it, we wouldn't be as successful. So think about that. Are you organized in a sense to follow through on the things that the business really needs to grow? And if not, that's a great investment to make, is bring someone who can hold you accountable or who can just execute for you.
Okay, now let's back up. We've talked a lot about your experience and your business, but now let's tap into your B2B sales experience. And for people who have no clue what that looks like, what is the sales pipeline? What are the parts or the milestones that somebody needs to hit?
So I think, from building a B2B pipeline, a couple of different things. One, obviously there needs to be awareness of what you do. So building a brand on LinkedIn, a great opportunity to do that. Finding a way to start sending emails out to your former clients, to your connections, to say, who do you know that you could introduce us to, right? To be proactive about that. But let's say you do get a bite and someone says, oh, Sam, we would love to talk to you about content writing. Can we find some time? So the first thing you're going to do is a discovery call, right? That's your what I call your first date. And I think everything in sales can be really related back to dating. So on your first date, we want to make sure we don't talk about ourselves too much. We want to make sure that we really understand what the other person is there for. When you get on these initial calls, my go-to statement, what I trained thousands and thousands of sales reps to do, is to simply say this: Catherine, building rapport, yada, yada. I could tell you a million things about Sam Sales, but I'd love to hear about you first. Tell me about your team. Tell me about your challenges. Tell me a little bit about the overall landscape over there. And then, if that's okay, first. And so I'm basically doing three things. Is I'm going to tell you about me, but here's a little bit about what I want to know first. And is that okay? And sometimes you're going to get somebody that gets on the call that says, you know what, we already know we want to hire you. Bill recommended you. We just have a few questions. Is that okay? And you'll be like, great, thank God. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have somebody who basically data dumps. They're going to tell you everything that's going on their side. They're effectively going to tell you why they showed up to today's call, right? And that is great for note taking. So you can figure out, this is how I sell to them, and this is how I fill the gaps in whatever it is that they're doing. Now, a couple of things from there. So pending a positive discovery call, of course, you're going to have some deliverables at the end or a next step, right, that will naturally move along in the sales process. But this is, again, where I would say, make sure to follow through. I hear time and time again from so many sales reps, I'll get you this proposal by the end of the day tomorrow. And I'm like, I bet you won't. I mean, that's great. Can't wait. And then they don't, right? Even if you're waiting on something, even if you're like, you know what, I need an approval from someone, or I'm waiting on my graphics guy to send this over, just send something when you said you would send something.
Yeah, so that follow through is critical, isn't it?
Critical. I mean, it truly can be the make or break of your business. And I think no matter how many times we explore it, I see so many entrepreneurs that just don't follow through with that. Or, we even have one of our CEOs that we work with that we say, we can help you close this deal. We really need this article that you said you would write. And he's like, great, I'm going to get this to you today. And we never get it, and we have to follow up. And I'm like, what are you doing? The other thing I would say is just think about if you've built a business around a technology, if you've built a product, if you've built an app, if you've built something, remember not to get too invested in the product. Like the product is great, but at the end of the day, we have to sell that. So keep your foot on the gas of developing the business, and make sure even after you have a steady base of clients that you're not forgetting to do that business development aspect, because that's how we've grown. It's just the mentality of we'll never have enough. So how much more can we get? And just really jamming on the gas pedal.
Okay, so just collecting as many leads and putting as many discovery calls on the calendar as you can.
You got it. Yep. Name of the game.
All right, so now you've done the discovery call, you've turned in a proposal, then what?
Yes. So this is when nurturing comes in, and I think a very undervalued part of the critical sales process. So, Catherine, if I'm going to send you a proposal, let's say I send it to you today, right? And you say, this is great. I'm going to review it. Give me a couple of days. Give me until the end of next week to get back to you. And I'll say, great. What most people will do is they'll sit and they'll wait and they'll refresh and refresh and refresh to see if you write back. But this is an opportunity for me to continue building the relationship with you, especially if you're selling to B2B businesses, especially if you're selling to mid-market businesses, enterprise businesses, if you're working with a deal with Salesforce, DuPont, whomever, that nurturing is critical. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to, at some point next week, send you an article, a podcast, a link to something maybe I've even posted on LinkedIn, and I'm just going to send it to you as a value-driven touch point. And what I mean by that is it's going to have no ask whatsoever from me. It's only to give you something of value. So, hey, Catherine, I was thinking about our conversation about women building businesses. I saw this article. I loved it because of XYZ. That XYZ is me telling you what's in my brain about that article so that you can say, I agree with Sam. We're building better rapport, right? I agree with her line of thinking. I love her perspective. And then I'm saying, here's the link to the article. Hope you find it useful. That's it. There's no ask. Because what I see a lot of people do is they'll send all that and they'll be like, by the way, do you have 10 to 15 minutes to talk about a proposal? And you're like, oh my God, like what a veiled effort to just get something selfishly for you. So think about that nurture process. Also, this is where you can utilize social media. So let's say I send that to you, and then let's say you, Catherine, don't respond by the end of the week. And I'm like, boop, boop, boop. What a lot of people will do is they'll be like, hi, Catherine, just following up. Have you had a chance to look? Selfish, selfish, selfish. So you, Catherine, know what I want. No, anytime I pop up on your radar, I don't need to ask. You already know that I'm looking to get a deal across the line. So what I'll probably do instead of following up on Friday is I'll wait till the next Monday and I'll go to your LinkedIn. And I'll look to see, have you commented on something? Have you posted something recently? Is there something that I can do to comment on something that you've done so that I can pop in your brain? Because as soon as you think of me, you're going to be like, oh, that's right. She sent me that proposal. At some point, I will be like, how's it going? Did you read the proposal, right? But just do some soft nurturing because that can really pay off, not only in relationship building, but just getting your prospect to be like, hey, thanks for this. By the way, I read your proposal. And we'll be like, oh, no kidding. How great.
So that I love this because too often we send that email going just following up, and the subject line is following up.
Oh no.
Right. So just making yourself top of mind and using social media to do that, or just I've done it with text messaging. Oh, how's your baby? How's your wife? Something like that just again pops me to the top of mind. But now comes another call, right?
Yeah. So to review the proposal, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think a couple of things. One, in terms of negotiation. So let's say the person writes back and they say, hey, this was great. It's a little bit out of budget. What can you do for me? That conversation does not happen over email, right? And to say, so you read that and just acknowledging that there's maybe room or that we can sharpen our pencil or whatever phrase you want to use is fine over email, but just say like, let's run through it really quick. Like, I'd love to see what sticks out for you in the proposal is a great need to have, maybe what's a nice to have, and then let me figure out what levers I can pull there. You're basically making it client-centric. You're not saying like, can I get on the phone with you to review this proposal? You're just saying like, let me help you. Mm-hmm. When you get on this call, just make sure you have the call to negotiate instead of doing it over email. And what you're really looking to do is do a temperature check. So if I send a proposal out for, 5 items in that proposal, I'm getting on and saying, okay, let's figure out where we can make some room, but tell me your thoughts overall first, like what was great, what isn't so great, I'd love to hear your feedback. But what I'm basically looking to say is, tell me what's important to you in this proposal, because I will highlight those, right, and be able to figure out how we maybe discount the other pieces, or we discount specifically those pieces, or, just get you to sign for a certain amount. The other thing to do on that call is, especially if someone's like, I really want this, but we need it for 10 people and I don't quite have the full budget. If you have a good relationship with that person, say like, if you can share your maximum budget with me, I'll be happy to figure out how we can cram as much as we possibly can into that. Because sometimes when we just pull the pricing from the proposal, we might get to, $9,500 when the person might say, I have $10,000. And you can be like, okay, well, what can I do for 10 grand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just by asking that, we have not left $500 on the table.
Right.
The other thing I would just say with the negotiating piece is, especially if I know that I'm not dealing with the decision maker, if I'm still working through a gatekeeper, if I'm working through someone who's like, I've been tasked with gathering the proposals and then I'm going to present them, I always want to make sure that I leave the door open to negotiation. So one of the things that I'll do is send the proposal over and I'll say, this is kind of our rack rate, without fully knowing exactly what you guys want or how long you would sign for or how quickly you would sign. I can't make, adjustments here, but I certainly can once we continue having a conversation.
Oh, I love that.
Right? Yeah. So then the person says like, okay, well, what can you do? And I'm like, well, what do you want to buy?
Right. What do you need?
So,
right.
Yeah. And then it doesn't block you out, especially if other proposals come in competing and they're lower priced.
Now, what do you do when they refuse to compromise on the amount of work they want done, but they are absolutely refusing to pay the price tag? How do you manage that?
So I think a couple of things. One, I think it also depends on what stage you're in your business. So in the early days, I would have probably been like, well, I've got nothing but time, so I'll do whatever it is that you want me to do. I always make sure I get something in return. So if somebody's asking for a discount of some kind, I'm saying, would you do a case study for us? Would you give us a testimonial? Would you post on LinkedIn for us? Would you give us a quote for our website? What can I get from them that will be meaningless to them and incredibly meaningful to me? I think as you get later, at this point, I don't discount my available rate whatsoever. I would rather have that time back to like read or sit on the couch or go to Orange Theory, which I can go to again now that I'm vaccinated. But I would rather have that time back for myself rather than be at my desk at 11 o'clock for a lower rate. So I just won't. And I'm very upfront with people on that. I say there's places where I can definitely, pull some levers and we can sharpen our pencil here. Two places I can't are this place and this place. I also just know our value. And if you want something for a lower rate, there's tons of consultants out there that'll give it to you. I'm just not one of them. So I think also, again, think about the logo. What would the logo mean to you if you got it? I'll give you a great example. One of the logos I mentioned on our call today asked me to speak at their conference. Now, when I speak at a conference, I usually charge upwards of 5 figures to speak at a conference for an hour. I didn't for today, don't worry. No one panic. But when I do that, that's just, again, that's prep work for me. That's decks. That's all kinds of things. And I think the thing that's interesting too is that this company said, would you just do it for us for free? Would that logo be important enough or meaningful enough to me to give an hour of my time for free? Can I do something that takes me less prep work and things like that to be able to do something? Does it mean that in an organization of tons of high-level decision makers will get access to me and what I can do and the expertise that I bring that then will hire me down the road? So think about that too, right? Not everything has to have a price tag. It's just what's the marketing effort you're going to get back in return.
I love that. Because that logo on your website can be so valuable.
Yeah. Oh, it's everything in terms of credibility. And, I'll give you a good example of a mistake we made early. In our contracts, I wish I had thought to do this sooner, but every contract we have just explicitly states we're going to put your logo on our website as an existing client until you ask us in writing to remove it. Right. And I think we've had one company push back, a very large financial company that's very conservative. But when you go to our website and you see who we work with, hopefully you're like, holy smokes, like this is not a little shop, right? And that's what we want. We want to make sure people know that when they're coming across us for the first time, just as they should with you.
Now, I didn't realize you needed to ask the brand to put their logo on your website.
For sure. I think it's probably, I don't know that it's a requirement. It is strictly a manners thing for me. I don't want to get in trouble. I never want to get my hand slapped. I don't want to, in fact, I will say a CMO for a logo that we have on our website sent my marketer kind of a little nasty gram and said, I see, so you've proactively added our logo to your site without our permission. And we're like, actually, we have your permission on the contract you signed. And he was like, oh.
Okay, so that's good to know.
Yeah,
I'm adding that clause to my contract.
Yeah. But it's great because then it's there, right? And you can reference it on the homepage on a scroll directly under a page. And I'll say that, like, before we had a very impressive page, right? In the very beginning, we just had it as a scroll bar right on our homepage so that you could see some of our impressive logos. And as we grew, I'm like, well, this warrants a page, right? Like, put them out there front and center so people can see who you work with and how credible you are.
I love that. Well, we're closing up on at the end of our time. Is there anything that you would like to make sure that everyone hears from you?
I'll say just the last thing, really be mindful about the people that you hire. We are successful because of my team. I will, without a shadow of a doubt, tell you, we do not deserve a single person that we have on our team. They're so wonderfully overqualified, but they are the ones that make this business great. They are the ones that are constantly thinking about your customers. They're the ones that want you to succeed. They're the ones that really have vested interest in this business, just like you. I think that that's something that took me a little time to get used to. Like, well, it's my business. Why would they care about its success? But hire the right people, and these people will treat your business just like it's their own. And I think that's one of the most magical things, to see them engage with clients without you, to see them engage with each other and like start to have inside jokes. And you're like, just to know that you built that is incredible, but your business will be better for it if you really are mindful of who you hire.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Sam. I really appreciate you coming and sharing all of your knowledge and expertise with us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Feel free to say hello on LinkedIn, you guys.
If you enjoyed this interview, you will love The Hub, hosted by Solopreneur Life. Here, you get monthly training on the topics that are vital to your success as a solopreneur. We'll get together at a virtual meetup on AirMeet every month, where you can hang out in the lounge and accelerate your growth. You also get exclusive access to the Hub Facebook group and access to our training portal, where you will find recordings of all our training and resources. Think mastermind, but better. Sure, you can do the Solopreneur Life alone, but why? As a member of the Hub, you get access to people from all over the world, and you can learn from one another. So check it out at solopreneurlife.com/join hub.